off with welcome to 546, a very special 5465 podcast episode. Today I have the greatest athlete to ever come from Wauseon, all league in three sports, all American in high school in 1962. First team All American at Michigan, NFL champion, Super Bowl champion, three-time Pro Bowler and All Pro, and welcome Mr. Rick Volk.
Well, thank you there, Owen, for all those comments. They're all true, but you don't do it alone at all. In sports, you're a member of a team, and as long as you have a good team and coaching staff and head coaches and fan support, it makes the job a lot easier to excel. And I guess I was fortunate to have everything like that I just mentioned throughout my career at Wauseon and at Michigan and in the NFL.
Yeah, and you definitely had a storied career in all of those. And I'd like to thank you first for the honor of interviewing you, and to Mr. Zumfeld for helping this happen.
Right, yeah. Well, I know Paul real well. He and I played together in high school basketball, and he's kept in touch over the years, keeping me posted on what Wauseon is doing and what his son has been doing and so on. So, he's been a good person that way to keep me posted on what's going on in Wauseon.
Yeah, he's definitely been the catalyst of helping this interview happen. So thank you to him. And
right.
Let's start off by talking about your early life in Wauseon. I've been told you have two wonderful parents and three great sisters. Were any of them athletes too?
Oh yeah, all of them were. In the Volk family, all have to be athletes. But yeah, my dad was very instrumental in helping me all along and coaching me in Little League baseball and football, and then going on in junior high, I had some good coaches there, Lynn Dunkel, and then high school was Larry Fruth and some of the assistants that we had along the way in football anyway. And also, as you mentioned, I was able to play everything there at Wauseon because it was a small school, and they had there's opportunities to play, and so I got a chance to do that. But my parents were very helpful, in getting me started in the right direction. And then my sisters, they are all athletes too. They basketball and it was one of their things, and I think volleyball they played, and they're all cheerleaders on the high school and varsity teams. So they were supportive. They were always supportive of Wauseon and the players, not just me, but all players that were at Wauseon then.
Yeah, and your whole family is just all these great athletes. And do any of your three sisters have do you have any nieces or nephews that were good athletes too?
Oh yeah, I sure do. All of them were. Cindy and Kim, who are still in Wauseon, have had three boys, and so they were all sports, swimmers and basketball players and baseball. And then my other sister Claudia had two kids, Corey Griggs, who was a real good athlete in Wauseon there, and ended up going on to play in college baseball in North Carolina. And then Katie Griggs was my sister's daughter, who was a basketball player. And I'm not sure if she played volleyball there or not, but went on to play college. I think she was in Cincinnati for a while. And so, and I'm not sure where else she went from there. But anyway, she did have a real good career in basketball there. And so And then Marcia, my twin sister, Marcia, she had, let's see, 3 boys and a girl. And all of them were sports, played sports in college, Michigan State and Central Michigan. The boys were, and so yeah, they were all athletic and interested in sports. Marcia, my twin sister, her oldest son Alex, he's an NFL ref now, and then Jake, the third one down, he's a ref in the Big Ten, for football, and and then Zach, he was the one that went to Michigan State, punted there, and he's not in coaching now, but he was at one time, and I think it was high school. But so yeah, everybody, sort of, had a lot of things to look forward to when the football teams and basketball teams were playing.
Yeah, and it's very interesting and cool that the history of your family and how much depth there is to where they all went, and even having nieces and nephews that went on to play college sports. Paul also told me that he thinks your father started the Little League program at Wauseon. Is that true?
The Little League baseball and also football too, but basically he was involved with both of those sports. That was about it. He was a baseball player in high school, and then he went on.
Your camera went off.
Okay, so I got a little battery. I guess I got to plug it in. I thought I was charged up. Let me just put the cord on it. Let's see here. I forgot to plug it in. I had it plugged in over the night, but it's down now. So can you hear me?
I can. Oh, now I can see you.
Okay. All right, I'm good now.
But
my dad ended up going into the Naval. He was in high school. He never really he played baseball, but in Toledo DeVille High School. But then he went into the Naval Air Corps after high school. That was 1941, and so a lot of the guys at that time in high school and stuff enlisted in the service, and he ended up going to the Naval, into Navy military, and became an instructor, a pilot instructor for teaching kids, young guys, how to fly a military plane. So he was called an instructor there, and then he came back to Toledo for a while, and then he got down to Wauseon, and that's when he started coaching some of the sports that I was involved in, baseball, football, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. And also, could you turn your camera a little bit? It's sideways right now.
How about this way?
Like around.
Around like this?
There you go. That's good.
Okay.
Sorry.
My mom had a brother. His name was Bob Chapius, and he was a very gifted athlete. He was a Michigan All-American and runner-up to the Heisman Trophy. So he was sort of like the person that sort of got me interested in, sports as well, and then got me interested in, actually, he didn't really say too much about going to Michigan, but I followed Michigan so much that that's where I wanted to go. And really sort of started from his playing days in Ann Arbor and what they did there when he was actually a junior and a senior.
Yeah, wasn't he a Heisman finalist?
Yeah, he was runner-up to the Heisman Trophy in I think it was this last year at Michigan was 47. I'm not sure if 46 or 47. I think it was 47 was his last year at Michigan. And so he was a Heisman Trophy runner-up, I think, would have been in maybe 1948 or something like that, after his senior year. And so he had a storied career, and actually from his high school days to his college days, because of this, he started at Michigan, and then they went into the service for a couple of years because of the war, World War II, and then he came back and finished at Michigan, and I think it was 46 and 47. And then I think it was in 48, that's when they went to the Rose Bowl, January 1st. And they won that game. And so he was Heisman, runner-up to the Heisman Trophy. There was a guy named Johnny Lujack at Notre Dame that won the Heisman Trophy that year. And Uncle Bob was runner-up. And then after that, he ended up going into the NFL for a while, but he actually was there for a couple of years, and then he got into business and worked for a company in Fort Wayne, Indiana called Central Soya. But the history of his career at Michigan and everything was what sort of drove me, I guess, to want to be a football player. And my grandma Chapia, she was his mom, who was my grandma Chapia. She was the one that told me all these stories about Uncle Bob when he, was in the service, and then when he came back and played at Michigan. And so I really listened to those stories and got to know. I didn't get to know some of the players, but I did meet a couple of them. And actually, one of his good friends who played with him at Michigan, Bump Elliott, was my coach at Michigan when I was there. So, we had that connection, and that was sort of, special for me.
That's wonderful to hear about your family and Mr. Chappius and what he did as a player in Michigan.
Yeah, he was he has a great story there, because when he was in the service in World War II, he was on a bomber plane. I'm not sure what they called it. But anyway, they got shot down over Italy. He and the plane that he was in, he was a tail gunner. And they got shot down. And in Italy, they had to crash. They crash landed in Italy. And that was being, at that time, the Germans were sort of controlling that area. So he was hidden out by some Italian people so that they wouldn't be caught by the Germans and executed. So it was a long, good story, and it was a true story. And so I can go on and tell you that story, but I don't. You might know more about it, but it was a story that I don't forget about that, because it was told to me quite a few times by my grandparents.
That's
in Toledo.
That's incredible. And
they were shot down, and then they were hidden out. And people he had to parachute out of the plane, and they all sort of landed in one area, and they were hiding from, they didn't want to be seen by any of the German officers that were around there. So they were hiding in a ditch, and then this Italian family guy saw him come down, and so he went over and got him and took him over to their house or farm or whatever it was, and hid him out over there so they wouldn't be found by the German soldiers. And so that was a good story. And those I could go on about that too, but I don't know you want to hear that. But anyway, it was these are the things that my grandma Chappius told me, the stories and Uncle Bob and all that when he came back from, being when the war was over and they got sent back home. He didn't get sent back home right away, but he told one of his friends who was leaving Italy or whatever, Germany, before him, that when he gets back to the States to call his mom and dad in Toledo, Ohio. And so the guy said he would do that. So Uncle Bob, when he finally got sent back, he felt that my parent or grandparents his parents would have been notified that he was okay. But when he got back, and I don't know, I guess he came into Florida, flew back to Florida, and he called them on the phone, and it was like a voice, in the past. It was like a ghost or an angel coming down and talking to my grandparents, his parents, that it was, it was their son, Bob Chapman, who was back. And he thought, the guy had told the guy that came back before he did, was supposed to call him. He thought that he got in touch with him and his parents, but he wasn't able to. And so my Uncle Bob, when he called him, surprised actually he came back, and actually I don't think he called him before he got back to Toledo, and then he surprised him when he got back home. He sort of threw some stones up on the window, and it was night when he got home, and they woke my grandparents up, and who's down there? He said, it's Bob, your son. And that when they almost fainted, I guess, to see him there when they didn't know if he had made it back or gotten out of Germany. But anyway, it's sort of a story that I can't tell it great, but it all worked out. It all worked out for him and my grandparents and my mom and everybody in the family.
That's still an incredible story, and how he went from, he was Michigan football player into the war and shot down in this incredible story, and then a Heisman runner-up and won the Rose Bowl.
That's right. MVP, I think, too, at the Rose Bowl when he was a senior, when they played there. So, yeah, they won 49-0 against Southern Cal at Rose Bowl, and Uncle Bob's number is 49. So, of course, that was my number. I wanted that number, and when I got there, and I didn't have it at first, but I was going to be starting, I guess, my sophomore year, and I had another number. And so I went in and I talked to Bump, and I said, would it be possible that I could get number 49 to wear it? Because Uncle Bob, that was his number. And he said, well, I'll see who's got that number and see if he'd, trade. And so he asked the guy, who had 49, if it would be okay for him to change numbers with me. And he said, sure. So I got 49 because Bump, followed through for me. And so that was sort of like the start of everything good at Michigan for me.
And you definitely had a storied career there.
Yeah. Well, we did. Like I said, it takes the team, and coaching and fan base and everything, just Michigan, just being there, was just a great atmosphere. And it's hard to turn down playing in the big house, of course, at the time, I didn't even realize that it was that. I knew I'd been there as a junior, like in junior high. My dad took me to a game, and when I was young, and we were in the stadium at that time, but to actually be playing in the stadium was just a dream come true for me.
I bet. And it's also wonderful to hear about your family and your playing career. But let's talk. I mean, you also had a legendary career at Wauseon. I heard you lettered in 4 sports. How is that possible?
Well, that's what's so nice about Wauseon High School at that time, and I think it probably still is all right. But we didn't have a lot of boys at Michigan at Wauseon then, in that school. I think I don't know what the population of student body or the student body was there, but there wasn't that many boys when I was at Wauseon. And so if you wanted to play the sport, you had an opportunity because there just was, a lot of opportunity to play. And so I just played as much as I could. I loved it all. I really liked basketball. I think that helped me in football and everything because you play defense, you play, man-to-man defense in basketball and zone defense in basketball. You do that, play man-to-man and all. So that helps. And then baseball was just a real good sport, just to be able to get out in the spring and play in the good, hopefully you had good weather, but track, I did that, so it all helps. That's what I thought was good about Wauseon is all those different sports all help you become an all around athlete, not just specializing in one thing. And I think that's what helped me, in going up to Michigan and playing there. And I only played football, but I did play a little bit of baseball at Michigan. But yeah, the chance to play all the sports in Wauseon gave me the ability and the knowledge of being able to move on and play, in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and 4 sports is, I mean, it doesn't happen anymore. That's max is 3 really. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, I think they in Wauseon, it was just the thing that you did. It wasn't not everybody did it, but I'm sure everybody would have loved to play all the 4 sports. But it's time consuming, and you got to be able to work it in, or work it in your schedule, or you got to work around it. And you got to have parents that understand, that. And then so I was in town. I lived in Wauseon, in town, and so I could ride a bike over to the high school or practice or walk over, or after I got driving, I could drive over. But so it was, it was not easy all the time, but it was, you could do it. You could get involved, and you catch rides with people. But it was just that was what was unique about Wauseon and playing for them. And then, of course, you have a lot of those other towns around there too that did the same thing. And some of them, I'm sure. Living around there. They were big rivals of ours, and a lot of those guys that played on those teams played all 4 sports. So it was just unique situation at that time.
Yeah, and can I ask you what championships did you win in high school for sports?
Well, we won in football. We won my senior year. Then the Northwestern Ohio Athletic League, NWOAL. That's what it was called when I was there. I don't know if it's still that way or not now, but so that was football. And basketball, I think we won it, maybe one year. I'm not real sure how many years, but I know we won the championship in football and in basketball. And I'm not sure about baseball. We could have. And then track I don't think, we were champions there. We could have. It's hard to remember those years. It's been a long time ago now.
Do you remember what you did in summers to stay in shape?
Yes. Well, a lot of us, not a lot of, I know some guys that I knew that are on the football team. We during the late in the summer, we would get out and bale hay with, work over to the farmer and farmer people, farmers there, and when they were cutting hay and baling hay, we would bale hay. I did that, a couple years in the summer, and so. And then, I did some, played basketball in the summer down at Rear Park and Wauseon and South Park. We played basketball pickup games. And so that was good. And of course, baseball that we had in the summer. Because I played some other leagues besides at Wauseon. So we played baseball there during the summer. But as I got older and got into the high school area, junior year and sophomore year, we went up to Canada. My dad bought a cabin up there, and we would go up to Canada in the summer I would go up for 3 weeks with them, and I would run up there, and that cabin that he was staying at, he didn't own it. Gene Elliott was the doctor in Wauseon at the time, who was our family doctor. He owned the cabin, and my dad, he offered the cabin to my dad to go up and open it up for him. And so when we would go to Canada, I'd run up there. There was a fairly steep hill that we would run up and run down. So I would do that. And some of the people that were instrumental in helping me up there, and through, people that I sort of admired, was a guy named Joe Geip. He lived in Wauseon, and he was a few years older than I was, but he sort of took me under his wing and said, "This is what you got to do. You got to run. You got to get in shape, because when you go back to football, go back to Wauseon, your football season was starting, and you got to be in shape. You just can't expect to go back on the field without doing anything." So he sort of got me going up the hill and running with him, and so he was sort of I always thought he was a great athlete. He was, but he sort of got me going, and he was sort of a guy that I idolized in high school, because he did it all. He played football, basketball, baseball. He didn't play baseball, but the 3 sports: football, basketball, and basketball, football, and he didn't run track, and he didn't play. So he did the 2 sports: football and baseball, or basketball. But he was a good athlete. And he was sort of the guy I sort of tried to emulate in high school.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of things that that I'm leaving out, but there's things that drive you. People inspire you. They say good things about you, or one thing about it in Wauseon, you had to be careful, what you did all the time, because people knew who you were. And my dad, he was the mayor of Wauseon, and not really when I was growing up, but he was instrumental in doing a lot of things there in Wauseon, sports wise. And like I said, he did become the mayor, and so you have responsibility in a family that you have to live up to. And so that's what all of my sisters and me tried to do. We respected our parents, and we wanted to do the best we could, so that they were proud of us. That's all.
And yeah, and even your dad being the mayor, your whole family tree is so involved in Wauseon sports and athletics, even in the collegiate level. Even Mr. Zumfeld told me that when you were 16 years old, your goal was to play in the Rose Bowl. What was it? What was it like to play in it and win the Rose Bowl?
Well, yeah, I mean, these are things that you never think are going to happen to you, but yet you'd like to. You hear these stories about playing out in California, and see the thing about it. We went out there. What was it? 74. Let's see. We won it in 70. We went out to the Rose Bowl in 75, January. So, I mean, I don't think I was. I always I've always told people that was the first time I really took an airplane trip. I don't know if we flew to Columbus or not. We might have, but we never flew anywhere else. So that was the first big trip that we were taking, going out to Pasadena, or that's where we played, but flew into LA. And so that was the first big airplane trip. And it was for me, just amazing trip, because I'm not only going to be playing in the Rose Bowl, but taking an airplane trip with all the players and coaches and everybody else as a part of the team, doctors and trainers, and flying all the way out there, and then all the good weather, and just everything that you heard about California was just true at that point. Just everything was right there, just like what you heard all these years how it would be. And so we were able to do a lot of things out there. Went to what was it, Disney World out there, and they took us through that park, and we just were treated like royalty. Not just our team, but Oregon State, who were playing that year. All the players are like idolized by the fans, and you're taken all over the place and introduced, and that kind of thing. So we were just something that you dreamed about, but you never realized would ever happen. And then it happens, and you sort of just take it in stride, that you got out there. But we didn't win. And I remember one of the coaches, Tony Mason, who was offensive line coach, we were out there practicing and playing. And he said, he called us in about a week after we were there. And he said, you're out here for one reason, and that's to win a football game. Because a lot of the guys, and we were all just sort of sightseeing, after practice or whatever, and trying to take in all the sights. And they have a lot of places to go for you. They're taking you all around, introducing you to different places. And so, you sort of lose track of why you're really there. And so they had to stay in the night before the game. Instead of staying in the hotel, we went out to this monastery in the hills of California. And it was a really a great thing to do, because there wasn't anything else to do. You had to read, and then that's when you went out there and in that monastery, and you could really, get serious about why you're there, how you got there. You didn't do it by yourself. You needed help, not only from your family and teammates, but God. He was on your side. And so it was just a really amazing thing that we did before that game, and sort of got us in the right frame of mind. And then we went out and beat Oregon State. I think it was 35-7, something like that. And so everything fell into place for us, and we were able to celebrate, and still, think about a lot of it. But there's a lot of things that happened after that too for me, but that was a big step in my, I guess, football career.
Yeah, and Rose Bowl's the game of games in college. So it
right?
was an incredible experience.
Right. At that time, it was the game. That's the big game. It was the big game then of all college sports or football. But now there's so many bowl games that you forget. You don't even. I don't even think they do the Rose Bowl anymore. If they do, it's not promoted like they used to. It's not the Big Ten versus the Pac-10. It's it's a lot of different schools can be playing in it, but it's still the Rose Bowl, and it's still a big deal. But at that time, I think there might have been only 4 bowl games that you could play in as a senior, or as a team, and so now there's, I don't know, 30 some bowl games. I don't know how many there are, but at that time it was the big game, and I was fortunate to be in there and sort of following Uncle Bob's footsteps. I didn't win the MVP though. He did.
And even at Michigan, you also, I mean, not even Charles Woodson played as many positions as you did. I'll throw some out there. You tell me if there's more. You played corner, safety, kick returner, punt returner, halfback, and quarterback. So
yes, I did. I don't know if it's all as a first string guy, but I got in the game in different positions. No matter if it's just one play or 2 plays, but I would, like I said, when in high school, you did everything. I played defense, I played offense, and so that was help you become an all around athlete. And so when I got to Michigan, I was able to do have experience in doing many things, but there's still competition. You had to beat out, or you had to win out, you had to play over, and for me, I was able to. I just had that experience that I was able, as a quarterback in high school. I did play a little bit in college, but not a lot. I think I threw the ball maybe one time in for a touchdown, but maybe it was more than one. But so in defense, and I was able to contribute, and that's the main thing, and be a part of everything. So it was good. And I did do a lot. I don't know Charles Woodson. There's as far as what he did at Michigan and in the NFL, not even in his class. But when I was able to play at Michigan, I had some good things, good plays. But he was he was real good, and he's did well. He did great in the NFL too. So I was just happy he wore the maize and blue.
yeah,
And he
and
still does. And he still does. You see him on TV after games or before games. You see in the fight song, and he's just into Michigan still. And of course, he was an Ohio guy. He grew up in Ohio and went to Michigan, so I'm sure he got a lot of questions. Why the heck didn't you go to Ohio State? And that kind of thing. But I don't know. I've never asked him why he ended up going to Michigan. But a good friend of mine, Tom Maddie, who just recently passed away late last year. He was an Ohio State player, and he played for the Baltimore Colts, and he was a real good friend of mine here. And so we always had a rivalry going on with the Ohio State Michigan game. A small bet, $10 bet for whoever won the game, the other person had to pay. And for the last 15 years, I was paying him, until 2 years ago, Michigan won. And by that time, Tom had died. So Judy is Tom's wife, and she knew, over the years, we being here in Baltimore, playing for the Colts and everything. They've lived here. We became great friends. And so last year she called and she dropped a $10 bill off here at the house. And because they won for the first time in Ann Arbor. And then, Ann Arbor. And then this year, Michigan won in Columbus. And Charlene and I weren't here, but when we got back in the door of our house with another $10 bill. So I'm sure we'll carry that tradition on. But that was because of Tom Maddie, and he was a Cleveland guy. He went to Cleveland in high school there, and so he was always on my case. And as far as, you're a traitor, I went to Ann Arbor, why did you come to Ohio State? And I said, well, I don't think I would have played if I went to Ohio State, because Woody was their quarterback, and I was not a Woody Hayes fan. So I'm glad everything worked out for me and going to Ann Arbor and playing at Michigan. It was just in my blood. It was in my blood, and I had to go to Ann Arbor.
I think there's some quote I saw about you talking about Woody Hayes saying that I hope he chokes on his Christmas turkey or his Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah, that was my grandfather, Grandpa Chapius. That was my Uncle Bob's dad, because they lived in Toledo, and he got quoted in the Toledo Blade that he said he hoped Woody would choke on his Thanksgiving turkey, that kind of thing. So I know that was another reason why I couldn't go to Ohio State. It just wasn't in our family history at all.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I think you probably would have. Your family would not have been the biggest fan of you going to Ohio State.
Well, I don't think so either, but they probably, follow me and all. But
oh yeah,
we would have. I had, as far as our family's concerned, everybody's a Michigan fan. My sisters, their kids, and my kids and grandkids and everything. So, that's the way it is. I mean, if I'd have gone to any other college, it would have been the same way. They would have been gung ho. But this made it even better, to go to the Big Ten and play there, and the Big Ten and play at Michigan and against Ohio State. And there's, we had a lot of competition. Michigan State was big then, at that time with Bubba. Smith was there, and Gene Washington, and who else was there? Oh, Clinton Jones and some other, a lot of guys. But so it's big at that time. Big Ten was one of the best leagues or conferences in the U.S. So I felt I was going to the best conference, and we would play the best competition. So as it turned out, when you go into the NFL, they're looking to see, who you're playing against. Are you playing against guys that have potential to play in the NFL or whatever? And if you do well against them, then they figure, well, maybe you might have the potential to play in the NFL and contribute.
And yeah, you and after you graduate, you had a storied college career, and you got drafted at the 67th pick by the Baltimore Colts. And early in your career, you had success.
Wait a minute, I don't think it was the 67th pick. I think it was the 40, maybe the 42nd pick. Check it.
I'll check that right now.
Check it. Yeah, I think it was. I wasn't the 60th. I wasn't up there. I was in the second round, and of course the Baltimore Colts at that time were. I don't know. I don't think they won the championship in '66, but they were a good team. So they were picking high, in the draft.
Round 2, pick 45. You were right.
Pick 45. You said 42. I thought it was higher than that, but 45. That's right. You're right. So anyway, that for me it was like I was in the second round. We had my roommate Jim Detweiler played it in Toledo, and he was a real good running back at DeVilbiss, and he went to Michigan, and he and I were the same age, and we ended up becoming roommates in Ann Arbor, and he actually was the first round pick of the Baltimore Colts in 1967. And then I was the second round pick in 45th pick of the NFL draft then. So yeah, we kept it all in Northwest Ohio there in that in that fraternity house and stuff like that. But so Jim was my roommate, and he still lives in Toledo. He's a dentist there. I don't think he's still practicing yet, but he was there for a long time.
And even earlier in your career, you had success. In your first 3 years in the pros, you made 2 Super Bowls, 3 or 4 years in the pros. You were in 2 Super Bowls and winning one of them. Tell me about that experience and playing in those games.
Yeah, the Super Bowl III against the Jets was not a good experience for the Baltimore Colts. We got beat in that game against Joe. Namath was their quarterback in the Jets, and Weeb Eubank was their coach. And Weeb actually coach for the Baltimore Colts for a while, so he knew who the players were in Baltimore, and so I think he had a little advantage that way. He knew the weaknesses and strengths of players in Baltimore. But anyway, to make a long story short, they beat us, and I got hurt in that game, got knocked out a couple of times, and so I wasn't playing my best. But we lost that game, and we were fortunate enough to come back 2 years later and win the game. So against the Dallas Cowboys, and we were fortunate to win that game, but we did. And it doesn't matter how you win it, but as long as you win, that's the most important thing.
And yeah,
can you still see me or not?
I can see you.
Okay, I wish I could see you, but I can't. Anyway, yeah. So Super Bowl III, Joe called it. I guarantee it, and of course everybody wanted to kill him because he was sort of a New York Jets bachelor up there, and sort of living the life. And so we all wanted to say we're going to kill him, we want to kill Joe, and put him in his place. But he was good. He did the job, and he guaranteed it, and they won the game. And so we were fortunate to get back 2 years later and win that game. It was sort of like actually won it on Jim O'Brien's field goal with like 9 seconds to go in the game. Mike Curtis had intercepted a pass and got the ball down to, inside the 20-some yard line. And then I think 3 running plays, and then the kick won the game.
Wow. That's a classic.
Yeah.
You guys beat the Cowboys, Roger Staubach's Cowboys, or is that after Staubach?
Yeah, that was before. Craig Morton was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys during that year. And then after that, Roger Staubach. He was on the team then, but they, Morton was the quarterback, and so they didn't put him in. I don't think Roger, he might have been on the team then, but he might have he might have put some time into the service. He was in the service,
He went to Navy, so he served at Navy. And Navy.
Right. So, I think he might have. I know he didn't come in that game and play, which was fortunate, But hey, while I was at Michigan, we did play Navy when he was there.
Yeah, you had an interception against him.
Then I can't remember that for sure, but I know I hit him out of bounds, like 5 yards out of bounds. It was an illegal hit, but I wanted to hit him, and so I hit him. I didn't get penalized for it, but I did hit him because he was good. He was a good quarterback, and they were, I don't know, I think Joe Bellino was his halfback that they had, and Donnelly, Pat Donnelly was a fullback that they had who came from Toledo, Ohio, and his brother, Pat Donnelly's brother, Bob Donnelly, was at Michigan. He was a roommate of mine in a we had rented a apartment, and we had 5 guys in the apartment, and Bob Donnelly's brother, Pat Donnelly, who played for Navy with Staubach, with Bob was his brother, and he and I and a few other guys lived together in Ann Arbor, and so I know a little bit about the Donnelly family. But anyway, that was a good story there. That we did win the game. I don't remember intercepting a pass against him though.
Yeah, you guys, and that was a great Navy team too.
Yeah, they had a real good team. So yeah, we won the game. So we were fortunate to win that game because I think Staubach, I don't know I think he was a senior then. And but anyway, I don't know what their record was, but they were good. We didn't know much about them too much, but
they were undefeated.
They're going to be that year or before we played them.
What's that?
We beat them.
They were undefeated before you played them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That. So anyway, that was a big game for us, and that was my sophomore year. So to go against those guys was a big step in the right direction for a lot of. We had at Michigan when I was there. We had a good mix of seniors, juniors, and sophomores. Freshmen couldn't play in those years. We had a freshman team, but you only can play varsity after your sophomore year or when you became a sophomore. So we had, sophomores, juniors, and seniors that were throughout the team. And so that was good because, we had an all-around team, young, some veterans and guys that were moving up the ranks. So that was a good time to be in Ann Arbor at that time because we had good leadership, and that's what it takes to really become a championship team.
Agreed. And you guys beat some good teams and won the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl. So congratulations to that. And who are some of the people that you played with or even that coached you that impacted your life even still to this day?
Well, Bump Elliott was one. Because he was, Bump just had a special way about him. He was not a yeller. He just, was just the kind of coach that, he gave you an opportunity and he expected you to, give it your all and play your heart out for Michigan. And so that's what we did. And we had guys that on the team at the time, Jim Conley was our captain and Bob Timberlake, guys that were seniors that were, starting and playing well. Like Timberlake became an All-American quarterback, and he was a runner. He was like not a drop back passer all the time, but he couldn't throw the ball, but he ran the option, and he was a big, 6'4", 220 full quarterback that could, run and intimidate some of the defensive players. And some of the coaches that we had, Don Dufek was my defensive back coach then, and he played at Michigan too, and so he was all about maize and blue, and he was a defensive back coach for us, and he was good. And then we had another guy come in my junior and senior year, my senior year, Don James, who was a defensive coordinator and defensive back coach. And so he played, he coached at Michigan for quite a while. And then he went to a head coach, I think, at University of Washington. But he was really instrumental for me in the development, how I played, because we ended up going to a 4-3 type defense then. My senior year, I think it was. And that's what the NFLs were playing then. The NFL was playing a 4-3. So I ended up becoming really a safety then, sort of at Michigan. The corners were, like John Rouser, who played in the NFL for 10 or 12 years, and Mike Bass, who played 10 or 12 years in the NFL, were the corners. And me and a guy named Rick Seeger were the safeties. And Don James was instrumental in putting that 4-3 defense in there. And then some of the linebackers we had, Frank Nunley, who played 10 or 11 years or 12 years in the NFL with San Francisco. And then a couple other guys that were on the team, but, never went into the NFL, but were good linebackers. And so we had a good mix of guys on that Michigan team. And then they all, a lot of them, like you just said, ended up going to the NFL and playing a lot of years there. Other guys that were instrumental, I think, was we had a defensive, trying to come up, different names of different guys that played at Michigan that were on a defense at that time. One of them, our defensive line coach, was George Mans, and he was, a real big strong Michigan coach and player, played at Michigan. And then let's see who else we had. They slipped my mind, some of these guys. But anyway, coaches that were played at Michigan that knew what Michigan was all about, that were recruiting guys because, there was, had to get somebody in there that could they wanted people that graduated from Michigan. They didn't want to bring guys in and not have them graduate. So they were instrumental in me playing there. And let's see, who else? Fritz Chrysler, who was the gentleman, or who was the GM, or not GM, but the what do you call him? Athletic director, was also there, and as the athletic director, and he had a lot to do with Michigan history and football and developing the team, and so it was just a family affair for me. It really was.
Yeah, and family can be the ones that impact your life most with sports. So after you were done with your career and you had a family to raise, and high school students, even me, see your picture every day in the window in the hallway at Wauseon High School, but most people don't have a clue what you had in addition to football, because playing in the NFL didn't pay like it does today. What was your career outside of football?
Well, I actually, my dad not only was, he did all these things as a coach in Little League and so on, the mayor of Wauseon, but he also owned Fulton Industries, which is out there on Fulton Street, or Linfoot Street. I think it's Linfoot. Yeah. Anyway, you ever hear of Fulton Industries?
I have.
Yeah, well, he owned that. He actually worked there for a lot of years before he became an owner or a part owner. And so he worked out there, and so that was a place where I got started working. And because of that, and him owning the company eventually as a part owner, I ended up representing him as a sales rep. And I got into that sales rep industry, and they called it the manufacturer's rep, is what it was. But you end up becoming a representative of a sales company or a manufacturing company. And they were metal stamping. They made metal stampings for the auto industry and a lot of other places. And so I ended up starting to represent him here in Maryland and in Virginia, and calling on automotive companies down here. And then from there, it branched out into other areas like machine. I represented a couple of machine shops and some urethane roller companies, and so I got into actually it was just the rep business is what it was. And so over the period of time, you talk to different people, different sales or different buyers, and say at Ford or Chrysler or whatever, and they find out you're in the rep business, and they might call you one day, which happened, call you and say, "Hey, I hear you're selling for so and so. How would you like to represent our company?" And so that's how it sort of took off for me. And so over a period of time, and that worked out well in playing football in the NFL because, in the off season, I could get out and make contact with buyers and engineers in the companies that you're calling on. And in the football season, I could maybe bring some in for a game, bring guys that are local or fairly close that wanted to come to a Baltimore Colt game. I can, give them a couple of tickets and they can come to the game and take them out to dinner, that kind of thing. So it really works out to be in sales as a player in the NFL because a lot of people in this area might, if they follow football, which a lot of people do, they might know who you are. They might not know the company that you have, but they know who you are as a person. And if you're an upstanding guy in the area, in the community, maybe they would come in or call you and say, "Hey, maybe you want to come over and talk to me about, some of the things we do here. Maybe you can sell something." And so that's how that sort of mushroomed and ballooned up. But it doesn't last forever, Football business, sales business doesn't last forever. There's always new people coming in to football, coming into the manufacturers industry. So things change all the time. So I was fortunate to stay a long enough time. I'm still doing a couple things in the sales part, but not with Fulton Industry.
Well, that's interesting that you also had a career outside of football with being a sales rep, and
Right.
Nobody does that anymore. So that's interesting.
Well, they can't. It's a year-round thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
In the NFL or whatever. Plus they're making a lot of money. They don't have to, get a job. But when we were playing, you sort of had to. You didn't make that kind of money, and so. But if they're smart, they still do. A lot of them get into the television industry, coaching industry, and in the NFL, and just make money there too. Even though they might not be able to run a 4.6 or 4.5 anymore, they still have their mind, and that can carry them through. Some of these guys that are in the NFL as coaches, and when you look at it now, I mean, there might be more guys in coaching on a team than are playing, anymore. There's so many guys that are involved in with a football team, ex-players or anybody. So there's opportunities there, but it's demanding. It's demanding, and it depends on how your team does. If you stick around long enough. But the other guy I want to tell you about, one that really helped me out too, was Chuck Noll, who was my defensive back coach in Baltimore when I got here.
Wow.
And Chuck Noll ended up becoming a Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. And he had, Super Bowls there and stayed there a long time. And so he was my first really defensive back coach here in Baltimore. And he would sit with me after practice and go over the defenses and my responsibility in that defense and what everybody else was doing. And so that's what really helped me more than anybody, really, was Chuck Noll. And I know he did that with a lot of other guys too, but for me, he sort of got me started in the right direction in the NFL. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know your responsibility. And I know a lot of different things, down and distance, personnel, that you're playing against, what's their tendencies, all these things that, he went over with me a lot, and not just me, but during our meetings as the defensive backs and stuff, he would be doing that too. And then, of course, Shula was very instrumental too, not necessarily as a defensive back coach, but as a head coach. And he knew the game, and then he was also a defensive back coach or player when he played in the NFL. Don Shula was, and so he knows what goes on sometimes. And as the game goes on, he knows what happens, and so he's not always so critical all the time. He'll get on you too, but he knows that you can get beat, and that's what the other team is trying to do. And they have good players too, and so you can't, you can't make it through a game without getting beat or hurt sometime, making a mistake. Hopefully it doesn't hurt your team, but anyway, those are a couple guys that really helped me out.
It's crazy. You had two of the greatest coaches of all time, both of you as your coaches, and that's my list for the two greatest coaches ever: Chuck Noll and Don Shula. So
yeah, well, they were good. I mean, for sure. And I mean, there's been a lot of other great coaches around too that have been very successful, but having firsthand knowledge and experience with those guys, I know they were hard to beat. Well, Shula's got the most wins of any NFL team coach in the league ever. Still 34, I think 347 victories. Now, I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, there's, I think, New England coach,
Belichick
is coming on there, and he'll probably be the next one to go, or be the one that goes by him. But I think he's on the second on the list right now. So yeah, I did. I was fortunate, to be actually, I was fortunate to be drafted by the Baltimore Colts. Didn't even know how to pronounce Johnny Unitas's last name, but to be a part of that organization coming out of college was, you just couldn't hope for anything better. I mean, they had a good team. You had to make the team, but had a good offense. You had Unitas and Raymond Berry, John Mackey, Lenny Moore, Tom Matty, just a lot of good players. Jimmy Orr, guys like that were great. And then on defense, I was able to get in because one of the safeties got hurt before I got here. I was at the All-Star game in Chicago, where the senior players get selected to play against the NFL champs. They call it what was it? The college. It was the All-Star game, and against the NFL, college All-Stars against the NFL, and I played in that game. And so by the time I got to Baltimore, there were some of the players that had already been here that were practicing and playing, but the guy that I ended up playing for got hurt before I got here, and so I had to. There was a guy that was filling in, or that was playing for him. I had to beat him out, and I did. But to be a part of that great unit, I was just a part of it. And but you don't realize how important it is to be a part of it, because you have to do your job. That's it.
Yeah, and you definitely did your job with so many interceptions, tackles, and even a touchdown.
You have to be able to do a few different things too. Like you said, I could return punts, and I didn't do many kickoffs. I was more of a punt returner, but I thought that was a big job because the offensive team is kicking the ball. They're saying, okay, we can't get the first down. We're going to kick the ball and give it to you and see what you can do. But you have to catch that ball, when they kick it to you. That's a big job, responsibility. So I was able to do that again with some guys like Jerry Logan and Bobby Boyd, guys like that did it too. And or say returning punts. But yeah, I was able, everything sort of fell into place for me like it did when I was in Michigan. So I came to a good organization. We had here in Baltimore, we had a good ownership. Carol Rosenblum was the owner, and he treated everybody with respect and like a family guy. He was a family kind of a guy. And then we had, a great team around us. We always even if we were down by 7, we always felt we were going to win the game when you had Unitas there. And Raymond Berry and John Mackey and Matty and some of the other offensive guys that we had. And Unitas was the main cog. He was the main guy that won a lot of games for us.
Oh, yeah. And I know for you've kind of been like my whole childhood. My grandpa's told me stories about you. He's from Wauseon. He watched you play. And it's been Rick Volk. Like, I've heard your name 1,000 times, and it's almost like a myth. So it's definitely interesting talking to you. And I know for a fact he'll watch this and really find this interesting. And he was a Colts fan too, so that made it even.
Oh, he was, yeah.
He's a big
your last name, I know your last name. I pronounce it Roop. I don't know if you do, but people, if they look at it, would say Rupp. Because we had
Roop.
Is that how you pronounce it, Rupp?
Roop.
Roop. Okay, yeah, that's Wauseon. But there are people that look at that and they'll say Rupp. The name is Rupp, but I always grew up as being Roop. So we had some Roops around there then when I was coming through, and one of the guys that I remember that was a lot of them were good athletes. So Ty Roop was a player there at Wauseon. He ended up becoming a physical therapy guy, trainer kind of a guy. And I hurt my knee once in high school, and he worked on me and got my knee back to 100%. So that was Tyru. And so I don't know if you knew who he was, but that was probably somebody in your relative chain somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm not aware of who he is, but I'm sure he's in the chain somewhere.
Yeah. So, but he would have been. He's probably now in some maybe 80s, high 80s, maybe. Is it maybe mid 80s? He was young when he was working on my knee, but he'd gone to college and whatever. I don't know. I think he ended up playing somewhere. But anyway, Ty Root was his name, but yeah, that Root name is, of course, there were some other Roots around that I knew, and anyway, yeah, that's the name.
What were you saying?
It's a big, Northwest Ohio. Is that basically where it is? The groups are up there, I guess, in that area. I don't know. They're probably all over the place, but
Oh yeah, my half of my family is all Ohio and
yeah,
Northwest Ohio. So
right, yeah. So anyway, yes. Well, you've done a lot of history on this thing. I haven't been back. I don't. Is that golden football there in the trophy case?
your football trophy case or your football trophy?
Well, there was a golden football that the NFL was giving out to players. For I don't know what it was.
Oh, I'll have to look. I didn't know that was in there.
I'm not sure. I think I had him send it. I don't know if I was supposed to take it back or not, but I don't know. I don't know if that's there or not. But anyway,
I'll definitely check and let you know.
I haven't been back for quite a while, so I know they're inducting people into the Wauseon High School Athletic Hall of Fame coming up here, and they invited me back like they do, but I'm not coming back for that. I'm staying put, So anyway, that you might look for that. It might be in there. It'll be like a sort of a goldish color. If
I'll
it's there.
I'll definitely look for that. That's a really cool thing to have.
That'd be coming from the NFL, I believe. So anyhow, that's that. But anymore, I tell you, it's been interesting talking to you, Owen.
Yeah, it's been a fun conversation.
You've been bringing up some good memories for me. I can't remember. I mean, I'm coming up with names and stuff that I haven't talked about or thought about for a long time. But Wauseon's always, in my DNA, I guess you can say, because that's where it all started for me. And I still have my sister Cindy and her husband Kim Fry live in Wauseon, and Claudia Griggs, who I don't know if you ever heard of Corey Griggs or not, but he was a real good player there in Wauseon, all the sports. He played all of them as well. They live in Perrysburg, and so that's close. And then Marcia, my twin, is in Greenville, Michigan. So she's the only one that's not right there in that Northwest Ohio athletic area or Northwest Ohio area. And of course down here in Baltimore, Baltimore is a good area, but there's a lot of issues down here too, like there are in any other big city. So now, do you live in Wauseon or Delta? You say, right?
I live in Wauseon.
You do?
And I go to Wauseon too. So
okay, I see on your phone it says Delta, Ohio. That phone number.
Oh, that's odd. I don't know why.
I think it says Delta. I'm not sure, but anyway, or maybe Paul told me you lived in Delta. I don't know, but Paul's on Philly. But yeah. But anyway, that's a little bit about my story, I guess.
And it was great. Thank you so much for being on. And it's definitely an amazing story, and your whole family has amazing stories, and it's definitely fun talking to you.
Yeah, you might want to. I don't know. You know, these my other sisters and brother-in-laws don't know about other things too. But like, I didn't get into their kids' names, that much. But they all had my sister's kids had big athletic careers too, and I didn't give them a lot of notoriety when I was talking to you about it, but they are very successful in their athletic endeavors and in their professional endeavors as it is right now. So anyway, I enjoyed the conversation. And
Yeah,
if you
me
need
too.
to add anything more, you want to call me, you can do that. I just like to be able to get it on where I can see you, as well. I saw you earlier on one of these other screens that I had, but
I'm sorry about that you couldn't see me. I'll send you the video once it's done so you can see me in the video and you and listen to it.
okay. Yeah, that would be great. I'm just not up to date on all this stuff. And like I have, I can get on this Zoom, but I don't know. It's a little easier with the other people that I've done Zoom on than maybe this one. I couldn't get on without going through some things on this iPad. I don't think I ever talked to anybody on Zoom on my iPad. It's always been on my phone. So I have to set up the iPad.
I'm sorry it was difficult for you. I didn't mean for that to be a issue.
No, that's all right. As long as you can see me and I can hear you. I have to get my granddaughter over here to help me.
Well, you have a great afternoon. It was definitely fun talking to you. And again, thank you so much. It was an honor talking to you and being able to have you on it.
Yeah. Oh, and how is you're doing this podcast? Are you in high school now, or?
I'm a sophomore in high school.
Sophomore in high school. Okay. All right. Well, you've got a lot of years ahead of you. Hopefully, this will get you going in the right direction. You have any idea what you want to do when you graduate?
I'd like to either be the eventual goal is to be a college basketball player, and then work my way up, become a coach or a sports announcer. But this is kind of building up for something I've always wanted to do, and this podcast, and eventually being a sports announcer or a coach.
Right.
And learning how to do so. So.
Well, that's great. Hope that all works out for you. And if I can do anything for you in the future, just give me a call.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And you have a great day, and it was great talking to you.
All right, Owen, you have a great day. Have a great holiday season. Safe, and enjoy it with your family.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.